All right, attorney Ronald Richards is on the Sarah Fraser Show. I'm a little excited because he gives you the play-by-plays on his Twitter, on his Instagram, which is attorney Ronald Richards on IG, of the Erika Girardi, Tom Girardi embezzlement case. And essentially, you know, Ronald, you really sort of follow a lot of celebrity cases and you break it down in layman's terms for those of us who are not attorneys.
I try to do that. I think that there was a huge gap between people that were not really practicing lawyers that weren't in the mix every day in these courts. So I felt like they could provide some analysis, but it helps to get, you know, a bird's eye view of someone that's actually there. And then there was people that have never practiced law that are opining, and then people that don't even know how to access the court dockets that are opining. So I figured when I started doing this that the public needed sort of another angle that would give them the perspective that I'm providing.
Well, I'm addicted to following you because honestly, like, I get confused as to what Tom Girardi is even actually charged with and if Erika's even charged with anything. So can you tell everyone how you're connected with the Tom Girardi embezzlement, fraud, he's declared bankruptcy. Give us the overview of how you're connected to this case.
Okay. The way I became connected to the case was initially I saw some symptoms of things Tom Girardi was doing in the local courts and in district court in Illinois that I felt were improper for lawyers. And I started hearing about things he was doing with clients, like not giving them their settlement money immediately upon a settlement. And there's other lawyers that I've called out over the years because I wasn't afraid of their threats that they were going to sue for defamation or something, because I wanted to basically expose some of the things he was doing. So I started publicly basically commenting about it. And
okay,
then,
so how long ago was that, Ronald? How long ago did that?
That was last year, like in November of last year.
Okay, so that's kind of when you first got word, because now there's a lot of people going, well, you know, Tom Girardi, especially in LA circles, a lot of people had started to talk several years ago that maybe things were not on the up and up with Girardi Keese, right?
Right, that's correct. But
okay.
It wasn't uniformly subscribed to by most lawyers.
Got it. Okay.
When you represent a lot of clients, you're always going to have people that complain or file complaints, and that doesn't necessarily mean the lawyer is stealing from their clients, not like what we saw in Girardi.
All right, so tell me this, then how is Erika connected? Because my understanding is you are representing a trustee, right, to try to recover some of the money, and you're looking into, we all know, because it is true, right, there's actual proof that Erika Girardi received $20 to $25 million from Tom, right, and the law firm?
No, that's not actually correct. Let me just clarify two things. First of all the views I express on this broadcast are mine and not the views of my client, who's the trustee. I want to be very clear about that. This is my own views under my First Amendment privileges. So I just want to be that disclaimer, and that these are my own opinions. With respect to Erika Girardi, she didn't really receive money directly from Tom. Tom ran his operation where he actually did not give her any money directly. He didn't put his house in her name. He had a lot of separate property. It's not what people think, actually. What he did do, what the firm did do, is pay all of her expenses for her company and booked it as a receivable. But it's highly doubtful that Erika was the one in charge of this financial apparatus. It was Tom and his accountants and CEO that were actually driving this bus. Erika was just the beneficiary of that money. And I have a very good relationship with Erika's lawyer, and I'm hopeful that everyone will realize that the easiest way to resolve this is to get some of that money returned, not without an admission of liability, not that you're a bad person, but obviously we know now it was a mistake for the law firm to give her, through paying her expenses, $25 million. That shouldn't have happened. So now we know that we want to fix that, and I'm hopeful we can fix that and very optimistic.
And the lawyer lawyers are always friends, by the way. I feel like people don't realize that unless, I've been in the entertainment business, so I've had a lot of entertainment attorneys, but the attorneys are always friends. So Evan Burgess, right, is her attorney. And I'm sure all the attorneys get together. They all know each other. You all work with each other all the time.
Of course. I mean, I would never say a bad thing about Mr. Burgess. I mean, we have a great line of communication. I mean, he has to represent a client, but look, it's not personal. I'm going to help his client. There's a motion coming up where they want to get permission to sue her in Chicago. I'm not in favor of that. I don't want Erika to deal with this the rest of her life. I want to end it.
So, Ronald, but you're looking into if, in fact, Erika paid taxes, right, on the 20+ million. Is that kind of
not really? She didn't pay any taxes. Either did Tom. So I don't need to. We don't have to worry about that. I'm not the IRS. I'm not looking into anything. I'm just commenting that their deductions got rid of all their income, and you can't deduct the expenses, but then say it's a receivable. I mean, the whole thing is a mess, but I don't think it's Erika's mess. I think other people created the mess, but to be clear, that doesn't mean she gets a windfall completely. Everybody's got to have a little pain so the creditors, including the victims, get some of the money back. That's it. And then we have other sources, by the way, Sarah, of revenue. We have all these cases that are going on, and the trustee's done an amazing job of getting a portion of those cases.
Okay, so tell me why you've done this very publicly, because Erika goes after you. And, she, in the recent one where you said, what do all the attorneys, this was on your Instagram and your Twitter, what do all the attorneys from Girardi Keese have in common? None of them have given back their bonuses. None of them have admitted or really helped the victims. And she basically wrote underneath, finally, you're looking in the right direction. You really are dumb or something. So You two have gone back and forth. Why did you decide to make it so public? Because it looks like, I think, for us, that you're basically doing it for publicity.
I know that's honestly a shocking conclusion. If anybody knew my legal history of almost 30 years in Southern California, where if you just go to my website, you'll see that I've been on TV like 400 times. I've been a legal analyst almost 700 times. I have 30 published opinions. It's ridiculous. Honestly, it's laughable, but what do I care? The reason is there's a few things I want to clarify. First of all, I'm only authorized to go after Erika, not all these other people. And I realize that it's frustrating for her because I'm very tenacious and she thinks I'm picking her. However, prospectively, I'm hopeful that I can get permission to go after other people. And then we can all work collaboratively. So I am going to go after other people, hopefully, because I had to develop evidence, and I expect Erika to help me with that evidence. With respect to the Twitter feed, Twitter is not social media. It's no different than like a press release or me talking to reporters when we leave the courthouse and kind of updating them on a case. Attorneys do this every day in America. They talk to the media, but I'm not savvy on typing out a press release. It's easier for me to whip out the information on Twitter. Now, I don't get any, quote, publicity because I don't need any publicity. I have 80 files that I work on. I'm licensed in 2 jurisdictions. I have cases, a ton of work on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Southeast. It's honestly like, I can't respond to some of these comments because they're laughable if they understood how many cases I have to process. So I understand that someone may think, oh, this lawyer is just getting publicity. If I never have to do another interview on Girardi, I won't be upset. However, this is the most prolific fraud on clients in the history of Southern California legal circles. So we're not talking about $5 million here. We're talking about $50+ million of client funds that have been diverted. And we know that $25 million of firm money was given to Erika's expenses. That doesn't mean it's from clients because, of course, Girardi was entitled to profits potential on some of that, but he borrowed most of this money. And so the issue is we have to deal with it now. So it's not fair to the public to let her or anybody else give an inaccurate narrative. That's why I give my narrative. So you're hearing it from someone that's actually doing the case and that has information that's bankable. I always put a lot of documents with my tweets. I don't know if you noticed that. It's not just Ronald Richards talking. I back it up. So that's why I do it. I don't get any, quote, notoriety that I need. Like, you got to appreciate the wealthy people that our office represents are not looking at Page Six or Us Weekly, US Weekly, to hire us. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have, extensive experience in the secured debt space and collecting money for people, investigations. That you don't need media to get you clients. By the way, no lawyer gets their clients from an interview. They get those are not the clients that are going to hire you. You get clients from referrals from other well-capitalized people that say, this lawyer collected $20 million for me. He's very effective, or she is very effective. I've never got a client ever in my career, Sarah, I'll put this out there, from someone watching a podcast or YouTube or me being on TV. Never. In my whole career.
You might
now. I probably had 9,000 clients. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten inquiries. I've developed professional relationships. I've developed media contacts, like when I want to bust out a story and like have it, when I feel a reporter is going to do a great job, I'll interface with that reporter, but never like has a wealthy, capitally funded entity said, I saw Ron Richards on Sarah Fraser and I'm going to hire him. That's ridiculous.
It'll be my friend Lenny Dykstra out there in Los Angeles. He'll be calling you for a DUI arrest.
The problem is I may have a conflict. I think one time we had an issue, but fortunately I don't think I filed against Lenny, so there may not be a conflict. He's always welcome to call me.
Everybody knows Lenny. All right, tell me this really quick. I got so many questions for you I want to get through.
Sure.
Who are you hoping that Erika helps you investigate? The other attorneys at Girardi Keys, or who else?
Whoever Erika believes it helps Tom basically divert this money. I mean, because she would have now that she knows what happened, she would have some knowledge that could be helpful. And the more money we collect and the more participation, the better, the easier it is to settle the case. Like I said, we need to work collaboratively. That's in her best interest and our best interest. I already know Erika makes X amount from her show. I hope she works there forever because they pay over $500,000 a year, according to reports in the New York Times. So I'm happy that she's working. Like I said, Erika did nothing wrong, like from a sort of an intentional standpoint. It's simply a function of, hey, you got a bunch of money. The law firm had an open book account. I want to collect on the account. Obviously, you can't pay all that money back. It's been spent. Let's work out an arrangement. It's not negative. And then I'm going to go after all these other people. That's what I want to do.
Okay, so Ronald, from what you're saying, I gather from your investigation, what you're saying is you don't believe that she really did know that Tom was embezzling. Is that kind of what you're saying? You
mean stealing from clients?
Yeah.
I don't think Erika. There's no evidence that I've seen that Tom told Erika, "I'm stealing from clients, and I want you to help me steal it." Like, she doesn't talk to clients. I mean, why would I think that? I mean, I think people get confused. Her liability is because she got money for nothing. Imagine, Sarah, if I said to you next week, I'm paying all your bills and your husband's bills for the next 2 years.
Sounds good.
Would you think in your head that somebody's going to knock on your door one day and say, wait a second, where did Ronald Richards get that money? And if that money is from other people and you didn't give me any consideration for it, a bankruptcy trustee could claw it back. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. 100%.
Erika didn't do anything for that. Those are not firm expenses. Erika's expenses for EJ Global are not firm expenses. That's why they could be clawed back. They don't make any sense.
Okay.
So it's not about whether she knew. I don't want to get into her mind or her private marital communications with her husband. I'm not allowed to ask her, by the way, what she talks to her husband about. It's privileged.
Why? Look, you have worked with huge celebrities, from Cameron Diaz, Joe Francis, who we all know from Girls Gone Wild. You've lived in Hollywood. Tom Girardi is painted as a genius to all of us. Genius attorney, Aaron Brockovich, the film. He had to have known this is illegal. So in your experience with working with wealthy people who become greedy, what the fuck do you think happened? Do you think he just, the bills got overwhelmed? He was so in love with Erika. He wanted to make her a star. He knew, they paint him like this genius. So he had to have known like what he was doing and he would get caught. I mean, what do you think? Just greed?
Well, no, I have a very good handle on what happened because I have access to the historical financial records. There's three things that were going on here. One is he loved Erika's glam. Okay, I mean, look, she has a lot of glam. Let's face it. She has. I mean, come on. I'm not a woman, but I think Erika, prior to this exploding, I mean, what a setup, right?
Well,
and I think
sounds good to me. $40,000 a month on makeup and hair and plus plastic surgery and my waistline looking slim. I'm here for it.
He was spending $200,000 a month on this stuff. Really, it was a lot, like a lot of expenditures on the credit card stuff. So, like, I'm just telling you this: he loved the limelight, and there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, he never gave her anything. He never gave her a house. He never gave her any security except for her career. So people should know that he spent all of his money on her career, a lot of it, honestly. And so that's what she got out of this marriage. It wasn't like he bought her real estate everywhere. So he loved seeing her, and I believe he was very happy about that. It's obvious from the clips and from the way, I mean, I'm a lawyer. I know lawyers that date women. I know female lawyers that date men. I know what lawyers like to spend their money on because nothing comes easy as a lawyer. You got to actually work for your money. So he enjoyed what she brought to the table. I mean, they met at Chasen's, an iconic restaurant. I mean, it's like I used to go there as a kid with my dad, who was a musician and a band leader. I knew the manager. I mean, come on, I grew up at that restaurant. So Tom was old Hollywood, old Beverly Hills. You know, he lived in Pasadena, which is like the central area for old money, waspy LA. I mean, that's where he was from. He's a member of the California Club, all the things. He had a building on Wilshire, right just outside of downtown. This is like as old money as you can get.
Okay.
So he meets Erika and he spends all this money. And then, unlike my office, which is basically, if you can't pay us, we're not representing you type office. Like, we don't want to take people that are widows and orphans or poor people or marginal people. I'll work out something else with them. Like, if it's someone's in trouble, I'll try to help them, but I'm not going to take a retainer from them. I don't want someone that is leveraging to pay us. That's not a good fit because I don't want the stress of their stress, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But Tom represented the poorest of the poor on a contingency. Okay. And so he had to finance that huge overhead in his office, all those salaries, all the experts, the depositions, the court costs are crushing. So he would, every single case I've ever seen of Tom's had a lender attached to it. So basically it'd be like buying a house with 20% down and then financing your down payment of the 20%. So you initially get the bank loan for 80%, and then Tom would get the case, and then he financed the rest of the receivable before they ever made the settlement. That's how he operated. They would take that money and use it for his other cases. So it was constant shuffling of the money. And so he overextended himself because he's kind of a dummy financially. Like, he would sign personal guarantees. He'd have Erika subordinate their community property. He'd have Erika sort of tangentially get involved in agreeing to some of these loans, putting liens on your house, all the stuff a lawyer should never do. You don't involve your family in your practice because if something could always go wrong, Sarah, and then what are you going to do? Tell your wife, oh, we're losing the house because I didn't settle the case? I mean, then you shouldn't have taken the case. Like, you don't want law to be what's called a high risk investment. You want your office to be, hey, I show up, I work hard, I get paid, and I go home. If all of a sudden you're going home and you're worried about how do I pay my law firm debts, you're not a very good lawyer on the business side. And Tom was very bad at operating a profitable law firm. In fact, he always lost money.
Wow.
Okay, because he spent all the money on other things. And he never had what a lot of responsible lawyers have. Like, our office and most good offices, we could pay our bills for years, Sarah. If all the work stopped, like during the pandemic for 6 months, no work. You know why? Because there was no court cases. So nothing was moving. Everything was getting static. And when I say no work, obviously there was a lot of one-offs, mediation stuff, but a litigator needs case flow. If that's a term of art, you need case flow. I need judges to make rulings, moving the cases along. If there's a bottleneck and everything stops, how do you make any money? You don't. You basically starve to death because nothing is getting settled, nothing is moving forward. And then on the defense side, if nobody's filing lawsuits, there's no defense work. So it's a chain reaction.
Got it. Okay, so what is the third? So we know Tom was not great with money. We know that the way his business was set up, it was kind of like you had to wait to get these payments. In the meantime, you had to pay your money. He was always leveraging. And then what was the third thing? I think you had said.
The third thing is that he had a personal lifestyle with private planes and $99,000 to be members of elite clubs, and he was not a very good saver. Okay, and so he never had like what we would call working capital in his accounts that would be there for a rainy day. So he was always very leveraged all the time, and then he would bring on a lot of partner lawyers to do a lot of the work. He would pony up with people like joint ventures.
Sure.
Which always sort of, a lot of these lawyers got stiff, like the one that you saw that filed the first lawsuit, Edelson. But I mean, there's 50 others just like him that didn't get their split fees paid. But Tom did a lot of those, and that would dilute their profits.
Got it. All right. I know we have a limited time, so I want to get into, because you've obviously watched this season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Tell me this, in watching it, what mistakes do you think Erika made on camera this season, if any?
Well, I think that the problem is that when they started filming, she didn't have all the information, and she's committed herself to certain positions that if she was ever in litigation, it'd be hard for her to know which way is up or down, right and left, because she's sort of, the facts have gone in 10 different directions, but she's committed herself to certain positions that are easily undermined. And then secondly, the other problem is because she doesn't know what to do really, there's been no sort of reach out to the victims of the firm, which are really one component of the creditors of the estate. It's not just the victims. There's lawyer creditors, banking creditors. The bankruptcy code doesn't discriminate in favor of client victims, which the public and the sympathy and who we're all rooting for is the clients that got defrauded, not lenders. However, the law is not so clear on that. If you're a creditor, I mean, I was helping a woman this morning at no charge trying to get her to file a claim. I get a lot of emails from clients that are stuck and that are stuck with things, and they don't know what to do.
Ronald, what did you make of Erika's attitude on this season? Because there's been a lot of debate about that, going after Sutton, going after the women. And Erika sort of at one point said, look, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. If I start crying and I break down for the victims, it seems like I knew something. If if I'm too aggressive, I'm a bitch. So this is who I am, is basically her argument. And I'm going to troll the trolls. Fuck them. They have no clue what's going on. Nobody knows what's happening in my life. What'd you think of that attitude? Is that a good stance for a client?
That's not really a good stance, because I don't see how you have any downside by being sympathetic to what happened to people. I mean, you don't need to own it. You just need to recognize it. Okay. But I mean, that's her personal choice.
So if she had so you think it would have looked better even if she had recognized, and she did, I think, at points of this season say, well, of course, it's about the victims. It's about the victims. But a lot of people don't think she looked very empathetic. So she could have been more empathetic, you're saying, and it would have been fine.
I mean, again, everyone does things differently, but if my spouse had breached their fiduciary obligations to their clients, I mean, the first thing I would have done is set up a fund with my earnings and said, look, I'm not going to give you all my money because I need to live, but here's, $50,000, here's $100,000. I'm going to donate this every year to a fund, and I'm going to help use my star power to raise money for you. There's a lot of things to do here. I mean, why be silent about it? It's not an admission. I mean, this whole thing about an admission, I mean, I'd be happy if she said, look, I'm going to voluntarily return some of this money, but you have to publicly say it's not an admission of guilt or liability. And of course I would agree to that. I mean, I don't know. Look, she's probably furious that she was a loyal wife all these years. And this is how she has to be, spend the next few years of her life dealing with her husband's misdeeds. That's got to be very frustrating for her. And I feel bad about that because from all outward purposes, she's a super wife to him.
Yeah, she seems like and look, so I think you're right? You think that she's kind of has this attitude because look, the woman's gone from private jet, having her own jet. I mean, now she's going to be on United. Two jets. Now she's going to be on United, or Spirit with the rest of us. So you think...
Well, she did Southwest last week to Vegas.
That's got to be...
I mean, so that was a shocker, I'm sure.
I hear from a couple of my wealthy friends who have then gone broke. Nothing's worse than when you were private and then you go back. So, I guess she's experiencing that. But
it's so funny you said that, Sarah, because I mean, I fly all over the place in all sorts of modes of transportation. But I mean, come on, how bad is a 787 from DC or Newark to LA? I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, plus you meet interesting people. I mean, all of us, you've been captive. I mean, I like my job because I get to meet people. I don't like to be segregated. I like being with everybody else. I don't like to be on a snooty plane without the public. I like the public.
Hey, so do I. I mean, look, they're on my show all the time. But for Erika, I think it was different. All right, now look, you got a early screening of the reunion. The first part of the reunion airs tonight. It's only the second time in Bravo history that they've done a 4-part. And of course, Erika tweeted, "Why would that be? Because of me, obviously." You say that Andy Cohen and the team answered a lot of the questions that you had.
They did. It looks that way.
Give me an example of a question you wanted answered, and then tell me, how do you think Erika looked in the reunion? Did she look more humble? Are we going to see a more humble version of Erika and a version of Erika that explains some of these bizarre things like Tom having a burglar and break in and her son rolling the car? So what? I know that was like 3 questions in one, but tell me.
No, I got it. I think Andy drilled down on the money and that like she received all this money and how does she not explain it, which is the weakest link in her positions. And I think that she's going to come across as angry and the normal Erika. I guess people shouldn't get confused. This is not a deposition. She doesn't have to act like a litigant. She has to act like her character on the set, which even though it's non-scripted television, people like watching the Erika that brings in the ratings. I mean, you can't get confused. This is a business of ratings. And the reason why we're all talking about it is because Andy makes them uncomfortable, and why I think the show's going to have off the chart ratings tonight. I'm going to watch it because there's stuff on there that you can't explain, and Andy was true to his billing and did not hold back the punches. Now, if they edit it all out, then there's nothing I can do about it. But I mean, it looks like he knows that what's going to drive the ratings is this.
Oh my God, 100%. We're all hanging on, right? We're all really interested. Okay, I adore Erika. I'm a huge Erika Jayne fan. I loved her from the beginning. I thought it was great that she was sort of this edgy, Pat the Puss type chick in this LA environment. So is there a chance that Erika could see any jail time? And what about Tom? Could Tom actually go to jail at 81 or 82?
I don't think he's going to go to jail because he's smart enough where this crazy defense was where he got a conservatorship appointed to him. So he has no capacity. You can't have someone charged in a criminal case if they can't interact with their counsel. So I don't think Tom, I don't think Tom is going to
see
get
any jail
time because he's he doesn't have capacity to help his lawyers out.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't think he can do that.
And Erika never did anything criminally wrong, right? So she's not.
There's no way they're going to be able to prove that Erika had any criminal intent or did anything. It's not even open for discussion. I mean, there's no. Whatever's out there with taxes, or that's not criminal, it's civil. And there's not even, it'd be a waste of time because the only person that was legally responsible for client money was the lawyer. I mean, the spouse isn't charged with knowledge of how the credit card bills are paid or when the firm is paying all of her vendors, unless there's sort of, unless Tom produced, all these emails between them where he's telling her he's stealing money and she's writing back, steal some more. That's just not there.
Right.
I've seen a lot of emails, and I think it is what it is. She separated, protected her post-separation earnings, and wanted to break it off because she saw the Titanic sinking, and that happens in a lot of marriages. I mean, what good person is going to? Why would you want to be married to someone and be on TV and then thinking that the Glam is being financed by shams? I mean, why would you want to do that?
Right.
So that, to me, if it was secret, it'd be more suspicious. But she's running around TV spending all this money. If she had knowledge it was stolen, she'd be in big trouble. I mean, why would anybody? To me, that's a bad idea. I don't think this is the legal issue I'm dealing with in my case.
Everyone needs to follow you. You're on Twitter, Ronald Richards. You're on Instagram, Attorney Ronald Richards. And are you going to be following the Jen Shah case at Real Housewives of Salt Lake City like you have, Erika? I mean, I know you kind of have a direct involvement with this, with the client.
Oh yeah, no. I'm covering that, and I'm actually I'm going to be on an ABC broadcast, but I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to have the producer call me again and have a call with me. Even though I'm not under contract, okay. I'm going to zip it until the show airs.
All right.
But I do post on Twitter, of course, everything that goes on in Jen Shah's case. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
And whatever I comment on Twitter is going to be about material that is different than what I did on the on-air program.
And that one, I think she is going to go to jail, is just from...
I don't think it looks good.
Yeah. You follow Michael Avenatti. You were one of the first people to kind of see that he was such a fraud, which is such a bummer. I thought he was so great representing Stormy Daniels, but he's a crook too, allegedly.
He's the biggest crook of them all. I mean, Girardi got overextended and is sort of a crook to a lot of degrees, but Michael Avenatti's crimes are, blatant misrepresentations to clients, and he's representing himself in his criminal trial, filing one motion after another because this is the last case he's ever going to get to practice law in. And he's doing a great job, defending himself much better than his counsel. And he's putting the government to task, which is his right to do. And I feel no sympathy for the government because they're well armed and well fortified and well resourced. And it's his trial, it's his show. But I'm just saying, when I read all of his motions and everything, it's all what we call Pyrrhic victories. There's nothing substantive because he did get a mistrial after 18 days, but now he's got to try the case again. And at the end of the day, he did lie to his clients. The evidence is going to show that, and he did divert money. And if he magically pulls out a ball of tricks that says, they had other side deals with me and here's more expenses, I'd be the first one to eat my words, but I don't think it's going to happen.
These lawyers,
him for all these years.
You all are so. I can't believe these lawyers. They're all. I mean, you work so hard, and then the shit they're up to. Okay, Ronald, tell me this: is there anything else we need to be on the lookout for coming up? Sometimes you have some other things coming. I don't know if there's another big court date, but is there anything with the Erika Girardi, Tom Girardi case that we should be on the lookout for? And then I want to tell everyone where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah, we have a status conference in mid-November coming up with the judge, and he's going to set dates, and we're going to everyone will have a good idea of where the case is going to go, and I think hopefully they'll see that we have a lot of collaboration, and then on November 2nd, there's an attempt to basically drag Erika to Chicago, which we're, believe it or not, going to be on the same side of Erika. Unless we work something out with these lawyers to wait, not having her go to Chicago. So the credible irony is, after all this, I'm going to be arguing with Evan on the same side. If these strange bedfellows in bankruptcy court, because of certain legal reasons, I'm already filed an action against her covering all these claims, and there's all these legal reasons. But in the incredible world of bankruptcy, Erika and I are going to be on the same team for that hearing.
I wonder if her tweets to you will change then. I guess we'll see. We'll have to stay tuned.
Well, she left some nice comments with a little dig. I mean, look.
She did.
I don't know what to do. Look, she's entitled to leave comments. I only respond to her comments. I'm not trying to, I get it. There's a stress, but her lawyer knows me, and I communicate with him regularly, and he's got to make sure his client understands what I'm doing. I can't talk to her. He's got to do that. Absolutely. But I think it'll all work out. I'm optimistic it's all going to work out.
Look, you're so entertaining to follow. People, if you are obsessed with this Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season and Erika Girardi and Tom Girardi, you really do break it down so we can all understand what's happening. You're going to be following the Jen Shah case. It's Ronald Richards on Twitter. It's attorney Ronald Richards on Instagram. Everybody follow him. Ronald, it was a treat. I feel like you broke it all down. Thank you for being on.
Thank you.